we're going to be giving people the next 10 minutes or so to gather. And so this is a good time. This is a good time, especially for beginners to chime in and say like, hey, what do you start with?
Wait, this is being recorded?
What's that?
Oh, it's being recorded. Oh, I feel special.
I give my consent.
Well,
I
yeah,
give my consent.
if you don't want in on the recording, feel free to just turn off your camera. Although Robert, that's his sweet tie-dye shirt, so please don't turn off the camera.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it's really cool.
All right, so your friend told you to start Python. Have you found automateboringstuff.com yet?
Huh? Automatic what?
There's a website that is basically a textbook. It's the textbook that I took in my Python 101 class, and it was enough to get me started on doing interesting things and getting roles places. It's called Automate the Boring Stuff. I'll post a link in the chat.
Or automate the boring stuff. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, it's a good one because it's real world about the art of the possible. And it's literally the title is on the nose, Automate the Boring Stuff. So Aaron here is first time long time listener, first time caller. But he's here.
Yeah.
He's in the sales space and was looking to get into Python because he's heard the job market is good for it, and it is.
Yeah.
So Automate the Boring Stuff. He's in sales. He works with what's called a CRM, a client relationship management instance. CRM is a very popular type of software. It was the original software as a service, Salesforce. You might have heard of it. And then there's a million flavors of CRM these days. CRM.
You're right. It literally was the first one, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then basically working with those things is powerful, but it can be really tedious because every time you're looking at a client's profile, you got to make sure you're updating the notes and make sure you've set an appointment and make sure you've captured their email and captured their phone number and their address and all these things. And there are all these scripted behaviors, and Python being a scripted language is a really great way to sort of scaffold that work process. It doesn't remove you from it, but it certainly can, if properly applied, help you to do as this one website and book does, and automate the boring stuff. And
so can I ask a question, or are we about to get started on the presentation? It's about Salesforce and programming.
Yeah, we got 7 minutes. I like to give 10 minutes after the hour.
Lovely. So my question was, when I'm on Salesforce every day, when you're on Google Chrome, on the bottom left, when you go on a website, it shows you what link it's loading. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
On the bottom left of the browser. So how comes whenever Salesforce, it always says JavaScript on the bottom left, and I'm using a web application, so JavaScript makes sense. How can Python be involved with Salesforce when it's on a web application? I know this is a very basic question, but I am new. So how can that combine basically?
Well, Python is one of my favorite languages for working with what are called APIs. API you may have heard, but it means application programming interface. And it's a way for your computer to talk to the servers of a particular service, like Salesforce, for example. If you were to say automate your usage of Salesforce via the browser, there are ways to work with things like that. I believe it's an Ajax application, which is like a Web 1.0, 2.0-ish sort of tech stack. It's asynchronous Java and XML, and that's why it's not showing you a new link. Basically it's staying in the same exact web page.
Yeah.
And then it just shows you a JavaScript. And then also, if you see it in Salesforce, when you jump around between various areas, there are a million redirects if you're looking at the URL bar. At the bottom, it'll show you JavaScript, but you look at the URL bar, it's blah 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 blah. Go from one screen to the next, and it'll basically run you through 10 URLs and stuff. Which is an old school way of doing things. Probably not the most secure, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, a few more minutes. All right. Who else came in here? We got a few more. Cool. What's up, Bill? What's up, Charles, Deanne, Fernando, Jason, Leo, Mark? Welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Popping, bro. What's up,
Yeah.
everybody?
Was good.
Do you guys use Python for coding assessments at all? Is it better than language like C++ or Java?
So who is asking who about the assessments?
Charles, myself, sorry. I was just asking in general because I'm still in school and just trying to pick up a little bit of Python maybe for those coding assessments that companies use, the leak
Right.
code questioning, things like that.
I would say Python. So generally what they want to do is they want to focus on your ability to think through things and to develop an algorithm, right? And so because Python is a cleaner and simpler language, it would make sense for them to do that. Plus the fact that it's now popular in universities like MIT.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hey Charles, where are you studying?
I'm currently studying at CSU East Bay.
Huh. So, but you're not studying computer science. You're studying something else.
Oh no, I am studying computer science. It's just my journey is a little bit. I'm a non-traditional student.
Okay.
I started with Java about 10 years ago, and I've been doing C++ maybe the last 2 years. I had a long gap in my education.
Right. Yeah, I know how that goes.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be more the company? I mean, if you're in computer science, right? If you're in programming, wouldn't it be the language that company uses that's a better thing to target?
From what I've seen and heard from other classmates who've done these kind of assessments, the language can be up to the interviewee as much as the interviewers.
Right, because they want you to pick the language that you're best at to interview, right?
That's why I think so. So that's why I was maybe looking at Python because I've done a little bit of Python for fun.
Yeah, so I've been in a few interviews. The most recent one, they just come straight and say, okay, what's your best language, right? And I'm gonna interview in that. And so if you don't do well in your best language, all right, that's the end of the interview process. So you know, that way you're as at home as possible, right? And even if your best language isn't, you know, what they specialize in, they still want you to use the one that you're best at, so they can see what you can do, right?
Okay, yeah.
Before we move on from our starting soon slide, I'd like to give everyone a heads up here. If you didn't get it from reading it, text 415-662-0675 with some interesting message, and it'll end up in tonight's presentation. Give you a minute to write that down. Cool. All right. Here's our Python meme for the night. Python installed successfully. All right, welcome guys and gals. It's another edition of SacPy, October 6th, 2022. I guess we're still in pandemic, but I think we'll always remain in pandemic mode because I'm rather fond of this whole don't have to get a venue thing and just do whatever Zoom. But maybe we'll do it in person again if something comes up soon. We were talking about doing stuff with Hacker Lab in Sacramento, but rest in peace. The garage sale they had on liquidating was pretty impressive, but I guess they're off the list of options for who to present with. Ryan used to teach 3D printing class there.
Oh, nice. All right.
Oh, dude, I miss the Hacker Lab so much.
I'll have
I
to.
spent the last 6 years there. It's a huge loss for the community.
Yeah, I
So
was.
do you have your own?
I live, my neighbor is the CTO of the Hacker Lab. We've been good friends for, the last 6-7 years. So we have a little shop / makerspace here, but it's not the same as the $500,000 worth of
Right.
equipment we had access to at the lab. Sorry for that segue.
No worries. Yeah, I'll wear my Hacker Lab shirt next sec.
Oh, right on.
I'll hail our glorious founder, Josh Miller. We haven't seen him in months. He does decline invites, so I think that means he's alive. It's possible he scripted it though, so we're not sure. Hopefully you join us again at some point, Josh. But thanks for kicking us off. I think we've been around since 2017, so here we are in our 5th year. I think February is our anniversary, so 6th anniversary next year in February. Crazy.
So if he automated the boring part of turning down invites, that could go on long past he's around.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man. Well, fun fact, of all the emails created, the majority of owners are still alive. That won't always be the case. All right, code of conduct. I'm just gonna put no sound bombing. But yeah, I'll read this verbatim because it's a good one. Our meetup group is dedicated to providing a harassment-free, and I would say sound bombing is a form of harassment, community experience for everyone, regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, or religion, or lack thereof. We do not tolerate harassment of our community members in any form, especially not sound bombing. It doesn't go great on Zoom. Sexual language and imagery is not appropriate for any venue, including talks, workshops, parties, Twitter, and other online media. Community members violating these rules may be sanctioned or expelled from the community at the discretion of the community organizers. All right, we got some channels here. Top one is Slack. That's a group called SacTech runs that one. And then I run the Discord. If you want to like take a screenshot, you can do the QR later. I'm in both of them. I'd say I'm in Discord more often than Slack. Slack's okay. Discord is pretty cool. We have some other things too. We got a Twitter.
Can you send the Discord link in the chat if that's okay?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, so we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Well, I haven't really posted much on Reddit because it's it's prone to Zoom bombing, like we've seen. I don't know who these people were today. But whatever, I'll take it as flattery. I am posting the tag in the link there. You got a Discord link is in there. All right, and we like to do a community picture. If everyone that wants to be in turns on their camera, I'm gonna put this into, how do I like unpin it? Yeah, I'm gonna stop the share. There we go. Cool. All right. 1, 2, 3. What's that? Everybody waving. Give us a wave. Awesome. Oop. Thanks, guys. All right, and let's get back to our screen share here. Cool. That one's a fun one because it takes longer and longer to add the next ring. Maybe we should do like maybe there's like a leak code on that one, how to calculate how many more pictures we need each time. And before we get started, quick celebration. 1,300 members was crossed between the last SacPy and now. I believe today we hit 1313. So, woo! I think
good luck. Does the bad luck cancel each other out, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that bad luck cancels itself out with the
nice
13. We're not 13 factorial. That's that would be a lot. All right, so tonight's presenter, Nicolas Vautier, is with us from Pangea. They are a cybersecurity firm. Their founding team is pretty badass with a whole bunch of patents to their name. And he's going to be talking to us about secure audit logging. You're going to see if you texted that number at the beginning, you may recognize your text in this demonstration. If you sent anything with names or other things, well, you'll see. Nicholas, without further ado, I will first make it so you can share for
So I got my hands on the
that world, but I will hand it over to you. And
Alright. Thanks, Woody. I appreciate the intro. Let's see. All right, let me. Okay, I'm here. So yeah, hey guys, my name's Nick. I'm a developer advocate at Pangea Cyber. I'll give you a quick overview of the Pangea platform and then jump into the sample app I put together using the Python SDK. Let's keep it interactive. So let me know if you have any questions or if you want to know more about a particular topic during the presentation. So Pangea is a combination of cloud services, APIs, and SDKs intended to unify security services for you, the app builders. We've built off-the-shelf components that you can typically use in the cloud application with security and compliance in mind. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel or build security on top of another service. For example, for storage, you typically use an S3 bucket. With Pangea Secure File Share, you'd use the same underlying S3 service, but the files will be automatically scanned for malicious behavior on ingest. So if you're building like an HR app, for example, that accepts resumes from users, your application code can react to an upload that contains malicious code. This is our microservices roadmap. We have 3 available in beta and more coming soon. Today, I'll demo the secure audit log and React services. With secure audit log, you can record security critical events in your application, such as account logins, password changes, or when an MFA method is added. The service will publish the hash of each event to an immutable blockchain, so you can cryptographically verify that the logs have not been tampered with. The Redact service can detect and remove sensitive information from a string based on rule sets. We have some defaults defined for common cases like social security numbers, credit cards, names, locations, and phone numbers. But you can define your own custom rule sets too. Any questions so far? So we have 3 flavors of the SDK: Python, Go, and JavaScript, with more on the way. Today, I'll use the Python SDK and secure audit log service to build a Twilio-powered SMS proxy that records conversation hashes on the blockchain. You can then use the SDK or the console to cryptographically prove that the conversation was not altered. The primary purpose of the secure audit log service is to record critical events. But in this sample, I'll show you how you can quickly use it to create an auditable SMS thread between 2 parties. Because the service publishes log hashes on the blockchain, you can provide irrefutable evidence of what was said between 2 people without actually exposing the contents of the conversation publicly. We'll then enable the Redact service to remove names and emails from the messages before they're forwarded to the recipient. This is what a conversation between an iPhone and an Android user will look like. Each user sends a text message to the proxy, which then gets forwarded to the other recipient. With Redact enabled, the recipient gets a redacted version of the message, and the sender gets an automated response to notify them that the message contains sensitive information. Okay, so let's look at some code. You can visit this link to follow along on the tutorial. Creating an account's free. So you can also visit pangea.cloud/signup. Also, a quick comment on the code. I was told by one of the engineers on our product team that I didn't use the proper snake case Python naming convention for variable names, and that Django might have been overkill just to serve an API endpoint. So they recommended Flask. If anyone wants to swap that out and submit a pull request, we'll send you a Pangea branded Yeti cup.
Right, and so snake case versus camel case. It's currently in camel case.
It's currently in camel case. That's correct.
Yeah, so camel case for anyone who doesn't know in development is if you have a multi-word name variable, so say like create create this variable or something like that. Camel case would be lowercase on the create, so lowercase c, but then like the variable, the t and the v would both be capitalized. Snake case, everything is lowercase, and in between are underscores. So Python's a pretty good way to fix that problem, but you might have to be creative with it. So that's the bug bounty. What do we win for our bug bounty?
So actually, I happen to have a Yeti cup here with me. Let me get my camera back on.
Oh, cool.
So we'll send you a Pangea branded Yeti cup. Not this one. We'll send you a new one.
But what if I want that one?
Well, yeah, we can discuss that too, I guess. I'll take the new one.
Is that like a really well-known brand of cup?
Yeti, yeah, they're a cooler brand. They're like absurdly expensive. Not sure what the hype is, but apparently they like are very insulated and super efficient.
All right.
But Yeti, yeah, the company, if you check it out, a cooler is like $400.
Wow.
So let me reshare my screen. Weird, it's not giving me the option to share the whole screen, which I had just done.
You did do that yesterday, and it's not letting you do it, huh?
Yeah, well, it's giving me the two windows I have open, which make the shift up. Let me try this.
Yeah, it allows you to gather windows. Yeah, I think shift and then click on all the windows you want.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that will work.
Yeah,
How often do you guys meet up on this Zoom?
first Thursday of every month.
Oh,
First
okay.
Thursday.
I'm gonna add it to my calendar.
Awesome. Yeah, also, if you want to shoot me an email, I can add you to the calendar event on my Google Calendar.
Okay. I mean, I'll email you right now if it's in the chat.
Sure, just a moment.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so you guys want to get started with the code demo?
Sure. Do you mind zooming in the font on both of those?
Oh, absolutely.
First?
Yeah. Is the tutorial okay?
It looks readable to me. Yeah, the terminal, that's much better.
All right. All right, so the code's publicly available on GitHub, so you can just copy the command here to clone. So we just downloaded it. We'll also just change the active directory to the Python directory. Let me adjust my windows here a little bit.
Nicholas,
Yes.
from when we talked before, this does require you to be on an AWS server, right?
No, that's not correct. We'll get to that part. We're going to run it locally on my machine, and then we'll use Ngrok to expose the server running on my machine publicly on the internet.
Oh, okay.
We'll configure Twilio. So I'll get to that part, but thanks for asking. So yeah, I'll just open the code file. Is an audit views.
Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna have to add this window to Zoom as well. Just 1 second. Let me figure out how to do that. New share. Boom. What does this look like? Can you just
Yeah, it looks, I can see it, the
Yeah,
add-on
it's readable.
used.
Okay. But you only see, I see that you can only see the.
Yeah, all we're seeing is your IDE.
All right, let me try.
All right, so for the newbies, this is a code editing view. Those other two windows are two pretty common views you'll see when you're implementing things. The one on the left there is a tutorial, which is an explanation, and then usually some code that you can just straight up copy and then paste into. There was a third view that we're not looking at now. It's called a terminal, and that's how you kind of talk directly to your system, or if you can log in via your system to another one, talk to that one.
I like how this is organized. It's you can see that it's Django, and then he's adding his Pangea stuff and his Twilio stuff.
That's right. Thanks for mentioning. Actually, if you follow through the tutorial, the code walkthrough kind of has it broken up into chunks. That's why sometimes making a app for a tutorial is has to just be really well organized. That way, when you're reading through the tutorial, it all kind of flows. So appreciate you mentioning that. So yeah, we'll just kind of get started, kind of per section. The first thing the app does when the web server starts up is that it uses a module called .env to load the env file, which I'll show you in a minute. That's where you set all your configurations to configure the app, which is done through environment variables. So it basically loads the file into environment variables. And then you read the environment variables into local variables in the app. Here we're doing the owner number, which is something that you'll set in the file, which I'll show you how to do. This would typically be for this app, it'll be my phone number, my mobile number, and then the target number will be the person that I want to talk to and record the conversation thread in between the proxy. So tonight we'll use Woody's number. The Pangea specific environment variables are, I'll show you where to get them on the console. Basically, it's the base domain. That's because Pangea services are cloud agnostic. So if you're running on GCP, like Google Cloud, for example, you'd want to talk to the Pangea services that are also on GCP. That way, latency is reduced as much as possible. And similarly, if you're building on Azure or AWS, you would use a different base domain. Then the auth token is basically an API key to authenticate your SDK that's running in your web app with the Pangea services. You can think of it as a password. And then the config ID is basically to tell the SDK which instance of the Pangea services you're talking to. It's also kind of to identify you, so you can think of that as a username.
Yeah, and so I mentioned earlier, APIs are a very common thing these days. There are tons of services out there, and they are available through this sort of interaction, these like multi-lines of code. And this is a very common structure. You've got an address to talk to it. You've got some sort of token. Maybe they'll have a secret is a common thing that you apply, but you sort of talk to it. You talk to this Pangea API just the same as you could talk to the Salesforce API or the Twilio, which I believe we talked to in this one, through this like just a few lines of code. So Aaron, that's what I was talking about with automating things in Salesforce. You do it sort of through this. You don't do it through the web browser.
Right, that makes sense.
You can think of it as when you're going to a website to query specific information, you authenticate with your username and password. These tokens are similar, right?
Yeah.
One identifies you, and then the other kind of authenticates, make sure that you have access to whatever service you're requesting. So once we have these values from the config file, the .env file, which env stands for environment. So you can take this app, for example, I'm running it in my local environment, but if you pull it from GitHub, you will have it on your machine. You'll want your different environment variables set up so that it talks to your Pangea instance or your Twilio account. So here we load the classes that we're going to use from the Pangea SDK. We import them. And then here we instantiate a Pangea config object with the domain that we want to use and the config ID that we read from the env file. And then this will be the kind of interface that we use to talk to the service. It's a audit class. We pass in the auth token and the config ID that we just created. Sorry, the config object that we just created. And then similarly, you'll see that a lot of services work this way. Twilio has a notion of an account ID, which would be parallel to a config ID, and an auth token, which is also, again, to authenticate. And this will be so that the app can talk to Twilio. So these bits are so that the app can talk to Pangea, and this bit will be so that we can talk to Twilio. So similarly, we'll import the classes from the Twilio SDK that we're going to use. And here we instantiate a client. So the audit client and the messaging client. So then all of that happens as soon as you load the app, which I'll point out when we do so. Here we define a endpoint, which is basically a URL endpoint that will set up as what's called a webhook. So anytime Twilio's number gets a Twilio-owned phone number that we're going to designate, I'll show you when we set it up, gets a text message, it's going to query our app through this endpoint, which is basically the URL wherever our app is hosted /audit, for instructions to figure out what to do in response to that text message. So every time a message is received, we'll invoke this code here. So we first instantiate a response object, and then we kind of have to, this is like the application logic here, which is fairly simple, right? If the message is from the owner, we'll send it to the target. And if the message is from the target, we'll send it to the owner. If anybody else sends a text message to that number, we'll send an automated response saying this is a private communication channel and that your message is going to be ignored. And we terminate, we just bounce out of the function because we don't want to log messages that are not between the owner and the target. So once we have the destination number set, we'll parse the proxy number, which is basically the phone number that the text message was sent to, and the actual message that was sent. This is all coming from this request variable, which is coming from Twilio's servers. So once we have where we want to send the message and where the message is going to come from, we'll want to record the event with Pangea. So basically we create an event object, and they have already set parameters, the event object, like an actor and source. So for example, the actor will be the system that's actually logging the event. In this case, we'll just, as the actor, we'll record it as the phone number of the proxy. The source will be the person that sent the message. The target will be the person that's going to receive the message. The message will just map it to the original message. The status will take it from the SMS status that Twilio is providing. And as the action, we'll just set as forwarding because that's what we're doing. Then this is what actually logs the event on the audit log, and will eventually cause it to get posted, a hash of it to get posted on the blockchain. So we get the audit service client, the log call, we pass in the audit data that we just defined here, and we set the verbose flag to true. That will make the service respond with a very detailed message, and I'll show you why we'll need that. So once we get an audit response, and if it's marked as successful, we will forward the text message to the destination number. So we don't want to send the original message, the one that came in. We want to send the one that was logged because it could potentially have been redacted by the Pangea service. So from the response, we'll parse the message that was logged and save it in the local variable called logged message. And again, this is why we set the verbose flag to true, because if not, the Pangea service will just return the hash of the message and like, saying that it was successful. So once we have the potentially redacted message, the one that we want to actually forward to the destination number, we'll use the Twilio client to send the message. Well, the body will be the logged message from the proxy number, and we'll send it to the destination number. Then if the Twilio call doesn't have an error, we know it was sent successfully. Then we just compare the logged message with the original message. If they're not the same, the redact service modified it. So we'll send an automated response to the person that sent the message, just notifying them that they sent sensitive information and that the recipient received a redacted version of the message. If the Twilio call failed, we'll just respond with the error message that Twilio responded with. And similarly, if the Pangea service returns an error, we'll send that back to the sender as well. And that's it. So basically, about 100 lines of code, and I'll show you what
So you're using Twilio as sort of a middleman between a text message and from an inbound person like myself, and then Pangea, or does this end up going to like your phone as well?
So it'll go, so I'm glad you asked, right? So you'll send a message to the number that we'll publish. So I don't have to give you my real phone number for you and I to communicate. I'll give you this Twilio owned number. And
Right.
every time a message is received by that number, it'll query our app here that we've got running for instructions on what to do with that message. So
Right.
basically the app logic. And then the app logic will, send Pangea message saying, hey, record this and redact it if necessary. Then we get that response, and that response is what we send through Twilio to the recipient.
Nice. And for anyone who doesn't know, Twilio is a service that works primarily with telephony. So like text messages, SMS, and they do phone call things as well. They have some other stuff for voice over internet protocol, but primarily they started as a text service. So cool.
Yeah, primarily telephony. One of the questions I have for you regarding that is you keep referring to like a blockchain that's and that's something you're operating, where you're
That's
storing
right.
this data.
Right. So the audit log, the Pangea audit log service automatically will post all the messages that you put, all the events, the security critical events, every hour or every 10,000 records to the blockchain. And if you're familiar with the blockchain, it's basically, in this case in particular, it's the ARV blockchain. It's considered to be immutable, right? So no one can change it or tamper it. So we don't actually post the log message. We'll post a hash of it, which is basically like a unique code to describe that message in one direction, right? So you won't, by posting the hash, you can verify that the hash is of your message if you have the message, but anyone that doesn't have the message wouldn't be able to check what that hash is a hash for. So the kind of the uniqueness of Pangea is that, there's other services like Splunk, for example, that are logging services that let you log efficiently and search logs. But Pangea, because it's the intent is to be so secure, it utilizes the blockchain to provide cryptographical proof that your logs have not been tampered with. For example, if you're using this in a system that gets compromised, right? You're building, I don't know, like a finance app, and someone hacks your systems. The first thing that they'll do is go either modify or delete the logs to cover up their traces. So if that were to happen and you're using Pangea, you would be able to easily determine that the logs that are on your system are not what was logged at the time of the incident.
They wouldn't be compromised for sure, but how would you, in the event of, let's use your financial example, how would you recover them? If you don't have any way to, I mean, you could restore from backups and then verify against it to confirm basically as like a delta more than.
So I'll show you. So actually, here, this is the Pangea console. I was going to show this a little bit later, but so we have, so actually by using Pangea, you have your logs, and then through these APIs, you're telling Pangea what to log and what to record on the blockchain. Pangea also has a retention policy, right? So they can potentially keep the record of the logs. So you can potentially have them locally, you can have them here. Like on Pangea's cloud, you can set a retention policy of anything, or you can set it to 0. But the intent is not to recover the logs. It's to, if you do have logs, the logs that you do have, to verify that that they hadn't been tampered with.
Yeah, to authenticate. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to take you off into a different
No,
area.
no. Definitely appreciate the questions. Yeah, if you're running this, let's get to running the app. If you're running it for the first time, you'll want to install the 4 dependencies. You can just copy these commands. Oops. You can just copy the commands and paste them here. I've already got them installed. Then you'll want to configure the env file that we were discussing. All the environment variables were being read from. So I can do a cat of the .env file here. The one that's on GitHub has these replace tags. So I'll move off screen so that you guys don't see my actual auth secrets. So what we'll do is, if we go to the Pangea console, you can copy them from here. So here's the config ID. I'll copy that here. Copy the domain here. And the auth token. Similarly, on Twilio's console, they have a similar concept. The account ID that is shareable, and then the auth token. I'll copy it into my file here. And then for the owner number, I'll put my phone number. And for the target number, I'll put Woody's number. And now that file that I just recorded, that I just saved, I will copy it from my desktop. Into this current folder. And if I do a git status, we'll see that it's been modified. I won't do a diff because that'll show my auth tokens on screen, which would be pretty bad. Then any of you could kind of use my Pangea services or my Twilio services. So, but if you did do a git diff while you're following the tutorial, you'll see that the replace tags got replaced with the actual values. So here are the 2 numbers that are set. You can also set the owner number and the target number to the same number, and it'll just, if you're testing the app, for example, it'll just reply to your own text messages. So the tutorial has a code walkthrough, which we just went together in real time, kind of explaining the app logic. And then to run the app, we'll use the Python command. The manage.py script is packaged in a Django app to help you kind of interact with your web app. It comes with this convenient feature to just run the server locally. So if we run that here, we now have the web server running locally on my machine on port 3000. The only problem is that only I can access it, right? So we need to expose this publicly so that Twilio can, query our app every time a message is received. In order to do that, we'll use a pretty cool tool called Ngrok. So
Yeah, Ngrok is awesome. Ngrok allows you to talk from your computer to someone in the public internet. Typically that takes a good amount of work with WSGI or ASCII and stuff, but yeah, Ngrok is really cool. It's a tunnel, right? Something like
sorry,
that.
I didn't realize I wasn't. Am I sharing this screen? Can you see?
I see the docs and then I see the Ngrok server running.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So yeah, we're running the server here and we're using Ngrok to basically forward this public URL that's on the internet to our local machine here. So now the only thing that's left is to go back to the Twilio console, go to the phone numbers, the active numbers. I have 3 numbers that I purchased from Twilio. They cost $1 a month. We have the Sacramento number. We'll post that'll basically get us to our web app, and then the code that we looked at is at the /audit endpoint. If we save this, we should be able to So Woody, do you want to share your screen and I'll send you a text message?
Sure, I'll load it up.
Or I can do So I'm sending a text message to this number, this Twilio number, and we see here that it was received. So then if I go to the Pangea console, I just sent this hello. So if Woody responds his, which we see here that he just did. So if I refresh this, he said hello, and then the redact service removed my name. I'm guessing you put my name in there.
Yep.
Good. So that's that there. And then if you wanted to modify the redact rules, you can disable it here or just go to configure. And we have 2 rules set, which are just email and names. The service uses machine learning to kind of detect what are people's names. But you can, remove locations, phone numbers, IP addresses, URLs, right? Because this is intended to be for like logging events in computer systems. So like, you wouldn't really need to log somebody's driver license. You can just turn that on, passports, social security numbers, financial data like crypto keys, for Bitcoin wallets, credit card information, medical records.
Is it possible to do custom?
Yes, you can do.
Like with regular expressions or something?
Yes, default.
So I think Aaron is gone. He was he came in from the sales world, but basically if you were to be conducting some sale and you wanted to communicate your like social security number or your credit card number because you need to be approved for a loan or something like that, this sort of system would allow you to send that while it ends up in the chain but doesn't give away your important information.
Yeah, and more importantly, if you're like logging this information, like you're building an app that you want to record that you accepted a credit card payment, for example, but it's not important to record the credit card number in the logs, right? Because if those logs get leaked, or maybe the people that are reviewing the logs, like an engineer that's working on the system, they don't need to know what someone's credit card information was, right? Because then you can take the credit card, sensitive information out of the logs. So the event is important, but a lot of this sensitive information isn't for the person that's viewing it, right? So if you would use the logs to like detect intrusion, or like if you're working on a system and like debugging it, the person that's doing that doesn't really need access to the financial side of things.
Very cool. JF says, before you got to all of that, now do it for emails, but he left, he missed. That's really cool though. So what you said, there was a custom area? Is there an interface for defining, the shape of data to look for?
Yeah, I know it must be on our roadmap. Rule set, this is to add. Yeah, so you would name it, and then this would take a regular expression just to kind of describe what. We should probably have a UI for it, so that you can write regular expressions kind of graphically. But I think that's how you would do that. We'll probably have to get back to you, actually. I'm pretty sure that's it. But again, we're kind of in the beta phase. We try to point to the documentation as much as possible, kind of the benefits of the service.
Oh, absolutely. And the full box you have there of existing rules, it's pretty comprehensive. I was just, I always like to push the limits on things.
No, fair enough. So that's kind of all I had to show. If you guys have any questions, I'd love for you guys to give me any feedback. If you try it at home, we have a developer community on Discord. If you go to, just from the Pangea.cloud website, you can join Discord. If you have any questions, I'm always on there, happy to answer, happy to help. And again, if you guys would like to do the bug bounty and fix the, let's see,
yeah, could you put the link to the Discord in the Zoom chat?
Sure, absolutely. So that's us, and we actually so we're based in the Bay Area. So if you guys ever want to, we have monthly meetups as well. They're more just kind of security, higher level, just kind of talking about best practices, and a lot of laws are changing. If you're familiar with GDPR, the handling of data, CCPA is the California specific one, which was to protect California, I think it's called CCPA's California Consumer Protection Act. The right to be forgotten, the right to own your own data. We're having a couple web series about that. I'll share the link with the community. We're having one on the 20th. Also, it's hybrid, in person and virtual.
Cool. Nick, I got a question for you. I think you had mentioned that it's posted to a blockchain every 10,000 records. Is that like shared, or is that siloed per tenant?
Sure, that's actually a really good question. Let me share my screen again. So we'll go to so each organization, you can have multiple projects, right? So this first project is the one that we created just today to demo that. But for example, for the number that we posted before the meetup started, just the one that auto responds to you, I have this project up. If you go to the secure. Oh, that's strange. Let me.
Did you just win your own bug bounty?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. So I should have had logs here. Oh, here we go. So this is actually messages that are already published on the blockchain. They'll have a green lock. So if it hasn't been published yet, you can't verify it for authenticity because you don't have the hash recorded on the blockchain. So you can go here and you can actually view it. This is the actual record on the blockchain. So this is a site called viewblock.io. The blockchain that we're utilizing is Arweave, but it's interchangeable. And then you can basically copy these artifacts. The code inside this web app that's showing this console, the Pangea Console, is actually using the Node.js SDK to validate it, to determine whether to show it green or gray. And then if there was any discrepancies, it would basically, you break this chain here. Did that answer the question? Because I got carried away kind of showing the feature as opposed to answering the question.
I'm not sure I fully understood your answer. I see that some have been published, but I wasn't sure if how you're batching these, or if these are just getting added to kind of a catch-all bucket that gets put on any blockchain.
So just to clarify, it is completely public. So if anybody went to, this is a web app that parses the Arweave blockchain and sees all records that are being added, they can absolutely see this hash, right? So it's completely public, but it's a hash. So it's with that hash, you can't reverse, you can't go back and determine that hash is to this message. But if you have this message, you can produce that hash to verify that this is in fact the message that was recorded whenever that was published to the blockchain.
Okay, but in terms of publishing to the blockchain, are you doing this on a per message basis or batching them?
Oh, I see the question. I'm sorry. So yeah, the Pangea service does it every hour or 10,000 records, whichever comes first.
All right, that's where my confusion was. That makes sense now. Cool.
Sorry about that. I missed the question. So yeah, they're essentially batched every 10,000 records. It'll trigger them to be published, or every hour we'll do it chronologically. And that again is the secure audit log service that's doing that. Let's see if we had any new messages come in. Cool. Yeah, somebody, we won't know who because their name was redacted, but sent this message.
Oh, but it didn't recognize SacPy as the name?
Well, that's not a real person's name.
How dare you?
To be fair, the redaction rule does say person. And SacPy is not a person.
Gotcha. Yeah, so entity maybe?
That's very vague, but we can definitely work on that. If you want to get that in there, we'll do a custom rule set. So I'll actually get back to you with how that's done.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, SacPy is on the blockchain. All right. Unredacted. Awesome. Well, that's a pretty cool freaking tool set. There's a lot more to Pangea. That was essentially only showing the redact, right? There's like
That's right.
There's like
the audit log and redact. Yeah. So we have we also have an embargo service. Wow, all these great questions are triggering me just to reshare.
Thought you were out.
No, not at all. So the third service that we have in beta, and again, we're adding these at a very rapid rate. We're still in beta. That's why this is here. When we go GA, we're going to have file intel, which I kind of vaguely described, which will let you search for malicious code inside files that are being uploaded into your app. The other one that's live right now is Embargo, which I don't have enabled in this project, but you can easily do so like that. Anytime you enable a service, you can set, you have to create a token in order to access that service, or you can create a token that accesses all services, which is not really best practice, right? It's best to, what if this token is only going to access one service, it should have the least amount of access as possible. So once we enable it, so what this will let you do is block access to your app. So basically, you can do it by country or IP addresses. We're adding Intel's IP Intel service. So basically, like, let's say you didn't want people accessing your app from the dark web, it will have a list of all known Tor exit nodes and block people coming in through the anonymous web. But for here, for example, like, let's say you're in some sanctions are, you know, that Russia can't access your app, you can configure embargo to block all connections coming in from Russia. So that's the list of services that we have today. The roadmap that I shared earlier in the presentation shows like 40 services that we have. And again, they're all components that you can pick and choose from what suits your needs. So the kind of value proposition that we're trying to add is you can spend time building your app and not having to like reinvent the wheel, and you kind of are assured that things are being done securely, right? So any common components, for example, right now, you know, we're in beta, we don't have any billing, it's all completely free. But we'll eventually, you know, for people that are using the service significantly, we'll have some kind of metering system. So one of the other services that we'll have is we'll expose that metering system so that you can use it in your app. So if you also want to make APIs that other people are consuming, you can use the off-the-shelf metering service that we're going to use internally for our product.
That's awesome. So sign up now. It's free.
Yep.
Till you blow it.
Early adopters, you don't always get the benefit, and so, you know, it's just great being part of a community. You know, if you're looking to get into like building apps, we're happy to help. Also, if you have any ideas, any pain points, any needs, we take your feedback, pass it to the product team, and kind of put it on the roadmap. You know, anything that any problem that a software engineer has, probably a lot of software engineers have it. So that's kind of how we try to come up with what to build next.
Absolutely. Well, this was really great. Thanks for the run through. It's probably one of our most in-depth presentations in a while. I really like you guys have great docs on Pangea. And this is really cool. Any other questions from people, or should we finally let Nicolas off the hook? Awesome. Well, thanks again, Nicolas. You guys are welcome anytime. I know there was some potential for getting some of the development team or founders suite in here. They are more than welcome. But yeah, thanks again. This was awesome.
Absolutely. No, it was fun. Thanks for having me. Definitely. So I'm here on the East Coast, but I'll love to hang out, hear what else you guys got going on.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Cool. I got a quick thing, but yeah, so it's the start of Q4. So I run my own company called Resin Studios. And I kind of contribute resources to this. Oh no, that is the old one. Let's try this again. Oh wait, was that? Did I just completely nuke my presentation? Might have. Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't. There we go. Anyway, Brazen Studios brings SacPy to you. Pay for the. This is not the one I loaded at all. What's going on, Zoom? Well, in any case, we've had an interesting quarter. I had some slides prepared, but Zoom doesn't seem to want to load them, so I don't think I'm going to fight him on it. But I worked on a movie this summer. Been playing around with DALL-E and Stable Diffusion. I don't know if anyone's familiar with those, but those have been really cool. Stable Diffusion is an open source implementation of something very similar to DALL-E. For anyone who's not familiar, DALL-E is a product of this group called OpenAI. They came out in like 2015, 2016. Huge founding group of luminaries. Elon Musk was in there for a minute. I think he's excused himself since then, but they've done a lot of really cool things with one thing was called GPT-3. Does this like text thing where you give it a prompt and it'll give you a whole bunch of text back. But recently they've been doing text to image, which has been pretty neat. You give it a very detailed prompt, and then it does its best at sort of painting what you've described. So I've been playing around with that. I'm in one Discord community that has one implemented as a Discord bot, and the service is spotty, but when it's on, it's been pretty fun. Let's see what else I've been doing. Since this thing won't load, I gotta just go off the top. Poor prepared presentation that won't work. Yeah, it's just not working. I want to try this again. Maybe it will work. Share the slides. That one. Yeah, load that one. It's just going to be the SacPy thing again, huh? Uh-oh. Why are you jumping around, Keynote? Oh, hey, look at that. Cool. Yeah, all right. So my name's Woody, but I have an art project I call frymatic. It's kind of like it's a tax vehicle for my company, Brazen Studios. Anytime I do a YouTube broadcast, I can like get a haircut, stuff like that. It's business expense. It's fun. But I gallivant through social media, Twitter and Discord and such. That little icon at the top left is my gravatar you'll recognize me by. This summer, I worked on starting last year and culminating this summer, I worked on a movie called Dared My Best Friend to Ruin My Life. It was a really interesting multimedia piece. It was like first time director thing. One of the the SacPys who did some beautiful soup scraping for this particular project. Did another scraping project for them too. They should be pretty close to done with post-production. So I'll post a link in Brazen Studios Discord when it's done. But there's some contact info at the bottom there if you're interested in the project. Check out the website, dearmybestfriend.com. And Michael there is the director. Definitely Real is his company and his studio that's produced that. I like that. Definitely Real. But it's all about deep fakes and identity theft and those sorts of things. It gets very surreal. It's kind of neat. If I could equate it to anything, it's kind of like, if anyone's familiar with the Netflix, it was kind of a game, choose your own adventure, Bandersnatch. It's kind of like that, but instead of having a whole bunch of, well, there was a lot of prepared content, but instead of having an interface that's just, Netflix, the interface they used was social media at large. So they, one of the scraping projects had me going through like everything you could think of, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch. They had WordPress. They had a whole bunch of things. And so like, the order in which you discovered it kind of changed the experience. It was pretty neat. And they had like, the idea was there's two guys that they're bored, they're done with high school or something like that. And they dare one another to ruin their lives just to, I don't know, grow as people or something like that. And the one dude turns evil and the other guy ends up with things like truly messed up. And then like you could kind of take sides. And like a dark web presence where I think like legitimately it got a little hairy. And then they had, Discord servers. They had what's it, ARC, augmented reality games or something, ARG, augmented reality games. They did a whole bunch of like deep fake stuff. It was interesting. They worked with a whole network of influencers to kind of promote the thing. I don't know where it will go, but it was fun to work with them on the back end, and I did it all with Python. So it was pretty neat. I'm also, I travel around a little bit, and people ask me what I do, and I'm not very good at giving the same answer every time, but it's usually something along the lines of like, I run my own company, consult to things. Occasionally I get a good client here and there. Most recent one was Salesforce, working on some other ones. But they'll be like, oh, cool, you're like a tech guy. Can you make a mobile app? Or you can make a website or something? So it used to be, can you make my website? Now it's, can you make my mobile app? And so, yes, I can. And so can me and my wonder friends. So we're trying to build this like app farm thing. The funny one to start, well, I'm not going to name it. Still kind of NDA at this point, because mostly it doesn't exist. But it's a clone of a whole bunch of existing apps. And well, they still want to make it. They really said, hey, I want to make this app. And I said, all right, cool. I'll do some competitive analysis, a little market research. Oh, hey, there's 84 of these. And, I would say either we're at market saturation or this app can never win. Or, maybe if you're feeling confident, maybe just no one's done it right yet.
So is this a Brazen Studios app?
Yeah, this is a collaboration. I do the design, I do the sales, I do the legal, I do the accounting and stuff like that. But I do some of the development. I mostly do polish when it comes to development. But I've got some partners in the network that pick up some of the contracts that I'm putting down. And so, yeah, we're working on this one most recently. That's what I was doing 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's been fun. No real major wins at this point, but it's been fun to kind of like go through the whole process of the sale to the deal to the design to a prototype. It'll be fun to get something into production and see how that goes. But yeah, the idea is not to help people start companies as a technical co-founder. It's more to help them get their idea into at least a working prototype so that they can then go and grow the business around it as they see fit. Because I already have my own company. I don't want to start another one.
Are those clients in Florida by any chance? Because that happens to be a map of Florida.
That is Tampa. Yeah, it's true. Good eye. Yeah, there's some overlap in the network in Florida. But
Nice.
yeah, hopefully we got another one coming up soon here, but yeah, this one's been fun. All right. Oh, I was talking about DALL-E and image generation. I pointed out earlier, I've got this like Gravatar, so I was just trying to see what DALL-E could do, coming up with the general concept. Those ones are fun though.
So from looking at the comments, I get the impression that Evan Ricci is already pretty familiar with Python. He knows his peps and all that kind of stuff. And Ryan is used to working in some hardware projects, I take it?
Yeah, mostly I built a lot of escape room puzzles and things with like Arduinos and ESP32s.
That's very cool.
That is cool.
Thank you.
I like that. Yeah, I want to get in touch with you if you're on the Discord server.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I'll join up.
Sweet.
I just joined as well, so.
And I put my email on there as well. And also, maybe as one section for the meeting is like really good YouTube sites for both Python beginners and people with some experience in Python, right? And so I've just been digging on a site called Mr. P Solver. So it's a guy who has a background in neural networks and physics and medical scans and all that kind of stuff, but he just talks about different libraries for doing different types of things. And so I'll put a link to his main YouTube channel. Right now I'm looking at his video on using SacPy to solve symbolic math like you would in a physics class. So I don't know what people's background is on that, but I think it's pretty neat. Oops.
Awesome. Yeah, you're also
Camera fell.
Oh no. Yeah. Robert's motion bombing us. Trying to make vomit. Awesome. Wait, all right, so those escape rooms, I'm curious, like what were some of the puzzles that you put together?
Oh, so one of the fun ones that I did was a couple of RFID readers, and it was the theme of the room was seance. And some of the RFID readers, you had 16 tarot cards, and 4 of them had the right RFID tags. And when you put them in the correct locations, the RFID readers would communicate through an MQTT server or the MQTT protocol to the sort of a primary Arduino that unlocked a door. So it was really fun to build some of these puzzles and then see the players react to them and sort of learn as I went along. And as I was learning from other members in the makerspace where I actually got the job making the escape room puzzles, I could take those lessons and sort of make even better puzzles. So it was all kind of learning on the fly and kind of figuring things out as I go.
That's awesome.
It was super fun.
Yeah, that's really cool with the RF stuff. And how did you get the cards made?
So let's see, the cards were just 1/8 plywood with some stickers, some printed 8.5 by 11 sheets cut out and then super glued on them. And then underneath one of the sheets, we placed the correct RFID tag.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's in Sacramento?
Yeah. I think they've torn down that room since then. The life cycle for an escape room is about 12 to 18 months. And the last puzzle I built was about 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, super fun. Like I'm really grateful for my experience with hardware, but Python's the first time I'm actually putting in the effort to learn a full language and fluently. And it's, of course, all the fundamental things like algorithms and data structures. I'm still very early in that process.
Yeah. I wonder what the typical life cycle for a hacker lab is.
Oh man, turns out it's 7 years, my friend. Unfortunately,
that's for that hacker lab in Sacramento, right?
Sorry.
But there's a national one, and I signed up for one in San Jose, and they actually closed their doors while people still had their tools and their projects inside the building.
What, Tech Shop or Fab Lab?
Yeah, Tech Shop.
Tech shop, yeah, that was a shock, especially with all the money and all the benefactors they had behind them.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
they were selling shares in it.
yeah, it's a testament to how hard it is to make the numbers work. It's a very difficult proposition to operate that profitably. Sorry for
Was
tangent again.
Hacker Lab in Sacramento, was that a victim of the pandemic, or was that prior?
You know, that was a victim of the owner being tired of finding the next benefactor. We were supported by local community colleges. We were supported by local companies. At one point, there was talk of the American Rescue Plan continuing the Hacker Lab, but the owner eventually just got tired of their mutant superpower was rubbing the right elbows and schmoozing with the right people and getting the funding that the Hacker Lab needed to go for another 6 or 12 months. And they eventually got tired of doing that. So they've moved on to other things, and fortunately it closed down.
Man, they had really, really nice toys there.
Oh man, I didn't know how to do anything before I went there. I learned how to do 3D printing there. I learned how to do laser cutting, CNC routing. All my CNC experience is thanks to the Hacker Lab. I know how to weld thanks to the Hacker Lab. And then I got to turn around and teach other people how to do the same things. And it's a huge loss for the community. It was a really magical place.
Yeah. I know that Folsom Lake College has their own Hacker Lab.
So yeah, fortunately, the Los Rios Community College District has Folsom has started one, Sac City has started one, Sierra College has a huge one that they've expanded into. That's what they started. They supported the Rockland location for a while, and then they eventually just opened up their own space.
Right.
But yeah, it's encouraging to see a lot of other spaces, smaller scale spaces are opening up. But yeah, the Hacker Lab was open 24/7 with all that equipment, and so long as we weren't building a nuclear reactor, we could build anything we wanted to in that space.
I think they should open their mind.
I wouldn't be against a new space. There's talk in the community, so a lot of the Hacker Lab community are talking about trying to get something together to open up a new nonprofit and open up a new space, but we'll see where that goes. I really wish I'd gotten into programming in Python when I already had this built-in community all around me. I mean, I was, and anyway, yeah, I'm excited to be here and learning now.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think physical devices is a pretty fun place to expand into if you live inside this little box, and to start stepping outside of the box and have sensors and motors and other ways to interact with your program. That's pretty neat.
It's fantastic. And a quick little side note on that. I taught youth maker classes to 12 to 17-year-olds, and watching their face light up even when all they did was modify the timing in the blink code example for the Arduino IDE, watching them light up or watching it blink their name in Morse code, it was incredible. I mean, just having them hands-on on a breadboard and changing code to have it even spitting out their name onto the serial monitor, they were blown away by it. And it was really engaging for them. Introducing programming with actually touching the metal and like you were saying, using sensors and moving motors, it's incredibly powerful.
Yep.
I do miss it.
Yeah, I've got I ordered one of those Chinese 3D printers, the Creality
Ender 3.
An Ender 3.
Nice.
Ender 3 S1 Pro.
Oh, the nice one. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted one where once when I turned it on, it would actually work, and nothing would go wrong, right? To get started, and actually, yeah, it worked pretty easily.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking about getting the fast one, the one with the three arms.
The Voron a Delta printer.
Yeah, Delta printer, right?
Yeah.
400 millimeters a second.
That is quick. Yeah. You won't be getting many small features with that, but that'll build some large.
No, it does small features as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can go really fast too with a resin printer. Any cubic mono. It's massively faster than the Pangea built back in I don't know, 2015 at Tech Shop in San Francisco.
Right. So how long does it take from the start of the print to, dried and finished with the resin?
Resin, you cure it. So basically, like you can print on mine, 130 millimeters is the top z-axis that you can print, and once you're out of the print bed and off of the mechanism, you put it in a UV light for 10 minutes and it's done. You put it in a UV light and rinse it and you're done. So start to finish, like a 130 millimeter print would probably take you an hour and a half. For most things, if you did like a full cube or something with like lots of kind of weird overhangs, it could maybe take a little longer, but like, calibration wise, it's pretty quick.
Right, for the resin.
Yeah.
Huh.
And weird sort of aside, that whole tech shop closing thing, a girl I went to high school with in Iowa was sued by Tech Shop for infringing on their trademark. And Tech Shop, I think, won, but wasn't able to claim any damages.
So was she trying to create a makerspace?
Yeah, her husband created a makerspace, I think, in Kansas. And I don't remember all the details. I just remember like she had like a GoFundMe of like, hey, we're getting sued.
Yeah, that kind of seems like the wrong approach. It seems like a more cooperative approach would make more sense.
Well, they'd already closed their doors too, so it was kind of like, what are you guys doing?
Huh.
But I learned tons of stuff at Tech Shop. I'm forever grateful for that place. But
yeah, that's. I was looking forward to it after the pandemic, and then there were no more.
Hopefully they will return. So whose screen are we looking at on these leak code problems?
That's mine.
Right on.
Yeah. I don't want to say who I'm interviewing with. I've heard that's a problem, but they said we want to look at your leak code. And I was like, oh damn, I have a hacker rank, but I guess I'll get started on leak code. All right. So what I did here, this one was return a palindrome. So walking through the code here. Basically, it's making an object with a solution, and I guess the unit test will create the object or instantiate the object and then run some sort of test. But the function is defining whether or not what you've passed it is a palindrome. And then it's got like some decorators and stuff telling you it's just going to give you numbers. And it wants a true response. So I just use the array like increment or decrement function. Basically start from the end and go backwards through it. But I guess strings are basically arrays, but because of the order of operations, you first gotta turn it into a string. I'm sure there's some better way to do it. It looked like my performance was not that great. I was only in the 60th percentile or something like that. But basically take the input integer and turn it into a string. And then I saved it in a new variable called reverse. And so it's returning a comparison between the initial input again, so as a string form, and then it's taking the string form of that string that I made called reverse after it's been like run through backwards. And so if you run that, it says that it's testing 1, 2, 1 as the input. And so if you turn it into a string and then go through it backwards, it should be should be a palindrome. So I want to see, how do you do this? These are fun because like you see these like crazy. Wait, why did that go slower this time? It's funny. So like why, where do we get the other solutions? Because sometimes you see like crazy short solutions. Oh, I guess that's discussion. Oh, submissions. Oh. All languages. It's a good Python. No, I did Python 3. Okay, that's just mine. In HackerRank, you can see other people's solutions. I'm sure there's some thing. These guys are this type of website. These like coding test websites have all pretty similar resources. Okay, so string X. Oh, okay. So all I had to do was go.
Yeah, I think it would coerce that, right?
But I did that. There's.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Yeah, I just needed to close the parens sooner. Beats 14, but now that's slower or something. It's kind of funny. Yeah, thanks for joining. This was fun. I hope to see you in the future, and let me know as soon as you got show and tell you want to do. This is
Right on.
you're welcome to present.
Will do, man. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, see you, Ryan. See you, Taneem. See you, Evan.
Hi guys, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the pro tips at the end. You got me.
Pleasure. Okay. Good night, everyone.
All right, see you guys.